Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri, and since his first show, Freaks and Geeks, aired, writer-director Paul Feig has been known not just as one of our best comedic directors, but one of our best humanists. Within every one of his comedies or thrillers is a deep, vested interest in telling human stories about connection, love, family, and self-respect. His new film, Last Christmas, is no different, with a script by Emma Thompson and a cast including Emilia Clarke, Henry Golding, and our guest, the surprisingly hilarious Michelle Yeoh. Feig has once again made something we rarely get, a big, polished studio film about people doing human things. Let's take a look at Last Christmas. Please welcome two amazing people, Paul Feig and Michelle Yeoh. Let's hear it.
It's Michelle Yeoh.
The very amazing.
Can you believe?
The amazing Paul Feig, the very amazing Michelle Yeoh. Thank you so much for being here, you guys.
Oh, thank
you for having us.
Congratulations on this wonderful, delightful, soon-to-be Christmas classic.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect movie. It's something that we never get to see anymore, which is the kind of weight that a studio can put into a small film about humans. It makes them larger than life, and it makes them mythical in a way, which is something that movies used to do more without capes and falling cars. And I, for one, am a fan of that period of time. Paul, I'm curious, just a quick career question. One of the things that I loved about this film and your last film is watching you, I would never say you're transitioning out of something as a filmmaker, but changing a bit as a filmmaker and moving from spectacle comedy in a way, which I always think you were able to invest spectacle comedy with a certain humanism, into a kind of light-hearted, just sort of laughing a little to yourself and never kind of, no one is pooping in a sink.
Right, exactly. Sadly, I know exactly. We tried to talk Michelle into it, but she wouldn't go for it.
Is that intentional on your part? Was there a moment in your career where you felt like, I want to try my hand at a different kind of comedy, at a different kind of tone?
Well, I'm just working my way through genres, really. I mean, I love genres, but it also depends what the project is and when it comes around. I mean, Simple Favor was this thing just sort of was sent to us, and I just really responded to it. One of my favorite directors is Howard Hawks, and I used to love how he went from a Western to a gangster movie to a screwball comedy to a sci-fi movie, and I think as a director, that's really fun. I mean, I love doing the big spectacle comedies. I like to do them again. But, with this movie, this just got sent to me by Emma Thompson, and it just grabbed my heart so much, and there was so much in it that was not only funny, but really emotional. And you're just drawn to a great project. But yeah, I'm just going to keep doing genres, and if I can check everyone off the list, then I'll be very happy.
I think something similar to Howard Hawks that you do in these genres is tricking the audience into hanging out with your characters.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways removing the spectacle helps with that in some respects.
It puts the onus back on the humans, which is nice, and there's nothing we connect with more than people, I mean, look, you can do these big spectacle things and all that.
Which are wonderful, again.
And they're great, and I love them. I really love them. But at the end of the day, the moments that people connect to are the close-ups or the medium shots of the faces. Because you can watch all this spectacle, but if you're not connecting with the humans in the spectacle, I've seen that sometimes when some of these movies, the last 45 minutes, it's so much spectacle, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. It's super cool, but I'm not connecting to somebody. And so we need that human connection.
So when did this start developing for you, and what made you cast Michelle? How did you get Michelle involved here?
Well, I was lucky enough to meet Michelle, who's been one of my heroes forever, because I'm such a big fan of her movies and of Hong Kong cinema and martial arts and all that in general. But to me, Michelle was like a mythical creature that didn't exist, And so one day when we're in Toronto shooting Simple Favor, Henry Golding calls me and says, "Hey, I'm going to have dinner with Michelle Yeoh. Do you want to come with us?" It's like, wait, how's that possible? Does she eat? And so I was really nervous. But I show up, and this delightful person is there. We sat next to each other, and I think the minute I sat down, we started joking around, and we just became fast friends. And so it was a quest for us to figure out something to do together. So when I read this script, literally the first character I cast was Santa, because I saw the description of the character, and then I just kind of basically read it and heard her voice. I was like, there's no way I'm not doing this movie without her.
Which is so interesting, because when I met you in the green room, I said, "Michelle, you are so funny in this movie," and you said you were shocked, and it almost seemed like you didn't know that you could be very funny on screen, which you are.
Thank you. Thank you. I keep thinking that my managers, they're standing outside the door and giving everyone $20 when you get in there. Tell her she's funny. Okay?
Just laugh at her,
First
just
thing
laugh.
you say to her, you're really funny in the movie. Because he kept telling me that. I'm like, you're my director. Of course you're going to say that. But I must say, when he called me and he said, I need you to play Santa. And I go, ho, 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 Santa? It's like... then when
That's funny. There you go.
Yeah.
You're cast.
I'm like,
Unconventional casting.
I know. He's like, I know I fight for women's rights and all those kind of things. Maybe I'm not going to take that from that lovely old gentleman who plays Santa normally. But when I read it, if you look at my career, right, even if I'm in a comedy or in a romantic comedy like Crazy Rich Asians, I always play the serious role. There is just nothing funny about me. So when he said, you could do this, and I read it and I go, whoa, because she is funny without trying to be funny. You laugh not at her, but you laugh with her, which is very challenging to do. And
There's the sense of reason in a lot of the scenes. Yeah.
Right? But then, then suddenly you read the love at first sight scene and you go like, how the hell do we make that happen?
She has a love interest in this movie.
Oh my
Say
God,
that.
what a love interest. But then I thought, how do I say no to Paul Feig?
Thank you. Thank you.
No, I mean, he's one of the most amazing directors, right? And I kept saying to him after we met that I really, really want to work with him. So now he throws me this role called Santa. And I'm like, oh, wow.
You asked
And
for
it was very daunting because then there is Emma Thompson who wrote the character inspired by someone who is very dear to her, which is her daughter-in-law, Bao. So then I'm going to fall flat on my face because I have this two iconic people, artists. How do I make Santa come to life in her own right? So it was such a beautiful story because it's about diversity, about immigrants, and if you take the wrong step, it could be the very stereotypical, yes, immigrant from China, she comes, she talks like this, and then she behaves like that, which is something that we all think that should be. And this is something that we've been trying to, there's no stereotype. It's not a stereotype. It is what it is. So it was challenging. I mean, I developed this whole new walk for her, the whole new session.
And some of the greatest costumes of all time you get to wear.
Costumes and the lines, the one-liners. It's like, and he would throw things at me. I mean, throw lines at me, not throw things. I was going, what? Am I in a movie? It's like suddenly, I feel like I'm a stand-up comedian spewing all these lines.
Yes, exactly. We need alts.
But I think you can see how much fun we were actually having as well.
Yeah.
You still throw lines at your actors on set and throw them alternatives?
Oh yeah,
Oh my God, yes.
you have to have other
like
jokes.
non-stop, okay? I was standing there going, did you just do that to me?
It'll give you really complicated lines too.
It's really complicated. Can you still remember what elf you are and what elf?
Oh,
and I
what
found
was
a
that? Oh,
diction, and I'm like, I don't believe I heard any of these lines before.
You and Peter, our Danish actor, I kept giving crazy lines to. That, yeah. You know what? You don't want to go into editing without a few options, and if you put up a scene and it's going along great, and then the joke hits and it's a dud, you want to be able to flop it out and then you have a new one because the audience will turn against you if you leave enough bad jokes in. And it's just fun, and I like to surprise them. I'm always looking for lightning in a bottle, and so I want somebody to not be so studied and so in their head, and I want to get them out of that and just have them talking like they do in normal life. And and here's the thing, hanging with Michelle, I just knew what a naturally funny person she is. It's crazy. And so where she was like, I'm not funny, it's like, I've seen it. So but you can tell me you're not funny all day, but I've seen it, so it's going to happen. And it did.
When you're doing a film like this where the tone is different than you're doing a big broad comedy and you can throw out alts that are they're profane or they're blue or they're not. It doesn't matter. But with this, there's a specific tone. Did you find on set that you were throwing out alts that were maybe for a broad comedies to see what you would have in that editing room, or did you always know the tone even when you were there?
I mean, the tone kind of, presents itself and it guides you along. So I would never kind of pitch something that would be so bananas. You're like, what the hell is that? But also, Emma's script was so amazing that it really set this template. And so you play within that template. You go 5% here, 5% this way. And sometimes for me, an alt is more just a performance alt of like, try this really angry, or try this actually not angry at all, and play that way. Because then they start to mold it in a different way. And then when I get in the editing room again, I've got all these different levels I can play with.
You set
It's alive. It's
exactly
evolving in that.
Yeah.
You set the movie, or you and Emma and her co-writer, excuse me for forgetting her.
Brian and Kimmings, yeah.
Yeah, set the movie at the beginnings of Brexit, right? I think it takes place in like 2015.
It takes place in 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
That was the beginnings. Wow.
Yeah,
It's felt like it's been forever.
I know. Every day's a year.
When did that idea come aboard? Because in some respects, this movie could exist, without that. It would be a completely different movie, but you would still have a romantic comedy. You would still have the sort of crux of what the movie is, except for that point. When did you guys start talking about that point and wanting to explore that theme?
Well, it was in the script when Emma sent it to me. But what we wanted to tell a very real, honest story, and it is at the heart of it. It's Emilia Clarke's character's family is from former Yugoslavia. They had to flee the war and they come to London. Father can't practice law anymore because it doesn't count there, so he's driving a mini cab, and mom's just not happy. So they're very affected by this big move. To do that, modern day, it would be dishonest to not have the Brexit, be part of this, because it's frightening for a lot of immigrants who are going like, they don't want us here, and we never wanted to preach with it at all, but you just have to drop it in there and go, this is affecting these characters and their lives, so we have to acknowledge it, and then we move on.
Well, I love the way that, in a way that you sort of veer away from being preachy in any way, is that you kind of tie it into the self-respect that Emilia Clarke's character has to find herself, and this idea that, like, in order to love others, you have to love yourself, and when you can do that, it's important to love the less fortunate, be they immigrants or be they homeless people.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is so important to Emma and her husband Greg, who broke the story with her, and to all of us, because it is about being human. It is about how we are all in this together, and this whole rejection of and vilification of the other, which seems to be catching on, or being
a vilification of the less fortunate consistently, right?
Yeah, not only
but
different,
it's like
but
always the less fortunate.
Yeah, because then they're the other for many different reasons, and it's the message is, this is just like I said, we're all in this together, and she's being very hard on herself, and she's being very hard on her family, but she's bringing shame from her family. The natural embarrassment one will from one's family, but then this extra thing of being an immigrant. She rejects her name. Her real name is Katerina. She calls herself Kate. She won't let anybody call her Katerina, and it's her having to come to terms with all that in the middle of having just gone through a big medical crisis and all. So it's really such a human movie about, as Emma says, how hard it is to be a human being. And we are more complex than any of us will ever want to admit. And life is not simple. Even, everybody's got these issues.
I think Emilia is not someone that people would immediately think of for a lighthearted romantic comedy. How did that come about for you?
Well, I mean, very much like with Michelle, I sat with Emilia. It was like 4 years ago. I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. She just done something on Broadway and got these amazing reviews. So I was like, I have to meet her, and she was in town. So she came to my office, and we had this like 1 hour meeting, and she was funny. Yeah, because you expect, I don't know, I always, again, unfairly, like with Michelle, I kind of like, oh, well, they're going to be like their character. When I was going to meet Michelle, I was like, oh, she's going to be really tough and like punch me or something, and then no, of course not. She's a real person. And the same thing was with
It was like the two dragon ladies together, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true, exactly.
that a
All my
strange-
dragon ladies.
Is that a strange thing, Michelle? That like at this point, someone's casting you a comedy, and you're thinking, "I'm not a funny person because I've been doing serious roles for so long." But when you were first cast in all these serious roles, were you thinking at that time, "But I'm kind of a funny person. Why do you all think I'm such a serious?"
I
person?"
always used to think that I was kind of funny, right? Because in real life, I'm kind of funny. People laugh with me, and I
like having a good time.
yes, and I do. But then every time I'm cast, I always get the most serious role because I seem to be able to command that presence. Right? Yeah, I'm funny.
See, exactly.
You just snored at your own ability to command the screen.
Right? So
I've never seen anyone do that. And then I got the leading role. Me.
Boo.
see, I am funny.
Yeah, that's right.
But it took people such a long
proven.
time. So I do love Paul Feig because he finally went, somebody give this lady a chance. She is quite funny.
Yeah, well, it's true. Well, I hate when I meet somebody, when I have a preset image of what they are, like an audience member, and then I meet them and they're completely different than that. First of all, I
Is
go,
there a good actor?
well, that's the thing. I go like, wow, what a talent. But then I get frustrated. I go like, no, I want everybody to see this person. And that was the same with Emilia. It's like, oh my gosh, she's so funny. She walked out of that meeting and I was like, we have to put her in a comedy. And I was trying to find something. And then, a few years later, I read the script and it's like, okay, this is Emilia's role and this is Michelle's role.
I have to ask, when have you found yourself doing that before with certain parts? Because you have broken a number of talents.
Well, I mean,
Emotionally, you've
yeah.
destroyed them. No.
Yeah.
But you've given them their
Crushed their
breakthrough.
spirits, yeah. Well, I mean, it's different to kind of find somebody and then want to expose them to the world. That's really fun, with all our Bridesmaids cast, and we've had good luck with that and the Freaks and Geeks cast and all that. But what I love on top of that is, like when I met Jason Statham for the first time, and I go like, oh my God, he's so funny. He can really make fun of himself. Or Chris Hemsworth, when I had lunch with him, I was like, God, Chris, you're so funny, but you're really funny when you're Australian, so I want you to be in this movie and play Australian, and we're going to make you, big goofball. And so that kind of thing, I think I just got excited about. And, same with Michelle.
How did this script from Emma Thompson come to you?
Out of the blue. Yeah, because I was originally going to direct the movie Late Night, that Mindy Kaling wrote. And we were prepping it and everything, and I got to know Emma. We were working together on her character. And then scheduling things just blew it all out of the water, so I wasn't able to do it. But we stayed in contact, and we'd always write, we got to do something together. And then I was literally signing the contract for another movie when my inbox lights up, and I get this script from Emma. It's just, hey, read the script. I think we'd have fun making it. And I just went crazy for this thing. So
Did you not sign the other?
I jettisoned the other movie. There's a group of people who are very upset with me right now. Yeah, exactly. And I apologize to them. But a great female director took it on, so I was actually very happy about that. So, yeah, and I was in 100% in.
Can I ask? I don't mean to veer too far away from the movie, but that is an incredible story. You rarely hear about a moment where a director says, "I'm not going to do this project. I'm going to do this project instead," or rarely do they talk about it on stage and get cornered by an interviewer.
Oh wait, is there cameras? Oh God.
What is it like making that decision? Obviously, you have to trust your gut, but there are so many hesitations, I would imagine, that come with. There was a lot of people depending on that movie. Is it going to get made after this? And that ends up resting on your shoulders a little.
Yeah, well, the movie's going to get made because it's in a studio system and they want to make it. So you don't have the guilt of like I just screwed everybody, But when you're picking a project, it's like picking a spouse. I mean, because when you make a movie, it is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't sleep. You obsess about it for at least a year and a half. So, I mean, that's the hardest thing. But when you find it, you become on fire about it. And you need that. If you're not on fire about something, I've had a couple of jobs I've almost done or signed on, and then I've had to get off because I'm like, I don't have the energy for this because I'm not going to be able to carry myself through this.
I want to go back to Howard Hawks for just a quick second.
Yes.
And this idea of tricking people into hanging out with the characters. Because one of the first people that you really started working with was Apatow, who has famously long comedies. And one of the reasons that he says that they're so long is because the longer you hang out with the characters, the more emotional it's going to be at the end of the movie. One of the reasons for it. And there is an element of that with Last Christmas. It's not 2.5 hours long or anything, but it is in some ways longer than I think most movies would be of this nature, either for budgeting reasons or because people just want to get to the beats that they normally get to. Will you have a tendency to insert odd scenes that are not necessarily a part of those beats that we would regularly...
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Well, there's like the tyranny of plot sometimes, which is You know, it's event. Movies are very event driven, and that's fine. That drives you forward. But I've always, it was like on Freaks and Geeks, I was like, let's just have the lightest possible story so that we can take these side journeys with these characters. You're learning about them, and you are advancing the story. We have to cut out stuff that kind of just takes you on a left turn. But if you're getting new information that's going to drive you forward, that's the joy. That's your. It's all about characters. Again, you know, unless it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of movies that have to, like a thriller, I guess. You know, action thriller. Sure, you got
Even your thriller can is tangential
very
at times.
wordy. Yeah, no, totally. Again, you're just connecting with these characters, and the more you're connecting, like you know, Judd's saying, the more you're going to follow them and you're going to care about them. Making movies, what I love about making movies more than television, and I love TV, is to me it's the hardest thing in the world because you have to, within the course of, let's say, you know, on average 2 hours, you have to introduce an audience to a group of people they've never met before, and you have to make them care about them like that. And then you have to take them through a whole thing with them, and at the end you have to wrap it up so well that people go like, and now I'm good, and now I walk out feeling satisfied. That's really incredibly hard, and that's why there's so few good scripts. You know, we read bad scripts all the time, you know, and great ideas. And you know, it's my favorite thing when like somebody will go, you know, it's new writers or people call you all the time. They go like, I've got this idea I want to pitch to you. I just need a writer for it. It's like, you know what? The idea doesn't matter. Ideas are something, but it's the execution of the idea.
I think that part of the reason for those bad scripts, though, is that so often scripts are trying to write for those events because they're thinking about the reader of a script, an agent who's flipping through really fast, a studio exec, whereas making the movie and finding those beats and those scenes that can go in between the events actually takes shooting a lot of footage and shooting stuff that might not work.
Well, that's
shooting stuff that will work and having the money to do that in a way.
Yeah, and you know, my scripts are always tend to be kind of long, and I always get a hard time from everybody from the studio on down about like, you got to cut this down. It's like, no, I need all this stuff. I'm not going to put it all in the movie, but when I get in the editing room, I don't know what I'm going to need. And sometimes the thing I think we all think we need, we don't need. We need this connective tissue thing that got cut out because we were trying to get it down to 120 pages from 125 pages. And it's just like, no, we'll shoot it all. Give me my schedule. You know, I'm not going to go way over schedule. I'm going to stay on the schedule. But if I can jam a couple of extra scenes into a day, I'd rather do that so I have them, because if I don't have them, they don't exist.
Yeah, even I think, and you know, you're probably gonna laugh at a comparison to Scorsese because everyone talks, but even he says like a movie for him is always about the tangents. How far can I stretch the tangent and pull the audience away from the plot until I've gone too far, just too far, and then pull them back in?
Tangents are where you fall in love with the characters.
Yes.
You know, I always sum up a movie like this. There's two scenarios.
Hawks was so good at, right?
You know, he's a master at it. But like, here's two scenarios. You're sitting in a restaurant with your friends. You're sitting around just having the greatest time. You're laughing. You're joking. Somebody's telling a story. You're going crazy, having the best night of your life. Scenario number two, you are seated next to that table by yourself trying to read a book, and you hear these people, and they're laughing and stuff, and you're kind of listening, and you go like, that's not funny, and like, what are they doing? Oh, these people are so obnoxious. I hate these people. You know, and what it is a bad movie makes you the guy at the table going like, oh, shut up. The good movie sits you at that table and teaches you about these people. So then when Bill tells his story about something crazy he did, you're like, oh, that's so funny, because that's not who Bill really is, or that's so opposite of what he does. And then you're invested in them, and then you have a good time. But we have to somehow do that, you know, with these little scenes and those little side moments and quiet moments or character moments with people. That builds that love the same way you build friends.
How often do you find yourself, I'm sorry, Michelle, I'm really...
This is great. This is like I'm at a master class. Please continue. I'm enjoying this very
I
much.
force Paul into this every time he comes in, I think. How often
It
do
is
you...
very interesting.
How often do you find that studio executives or people in development or producers, financiers don't get those tangents, don't get those moments, and are constantly just being like, I don't understand what this has to do with the story, and like this doesn't relate to a thing at the end or anything like that?
Well, I mean, if you're getting that when you're in prep before you shoot it, you're having a disconnect with your producers because they're not understanding what you do, and it's better to get out at that point. Yeah. But if they're doing that once you've done it and you're putting the movie together, this is why I do test screenings all the time, because I have empirical evidence where I go like, well, that worked. I know, sure, maybe it's weird, but listen to the laugh that got, and we still kept people engaged. And then if it doesn't work, I'm not going to fight for something that doesn't work. If they're going to like take that out and it didn't work, I'm like, I want it out faster than you want it out.
Yeah.
So you need that. That's what you just have. We make movies for people. Not for ourselves. We try to please ourselves as we do it. But if they don't like it, then it doesn't matter if you make something you love. You got a crappy movie on your hands.
What's that Howard Hawks movie where John Wayne goes to Africa? Do you know that one?
Oh, what is it?
I can't remember the name of it,
Yeah.
but I saw it in the theater not that long ago. It's like an almost 3-hour movie where nothing happens.
Right.
It just coasts on the charm of all of the stars in the movie. And it's wonderful. And I feel that way like a little bit about Last Christmas. I mean, a lot happens in the movie, but it coasts in a lot of ways on the charm of all of the stars in the movie, like Michelle and Emilia.
Yeah,
and
well,
Henry.
Michelle and Emilia have that great scene where they're just talking about where Santa's got her name from and all her other previous names, and it's this lovely moment. You just settle in with them in this darkened store, and it gets like the biggest laughs in the movie, and people just fall in love with the two of them, and you see them becoming friends after this kind of rocky relationship they have at the beginning. And
the fact that she has an admirer wouldn't really exist in a lot of other movies because it would feel too tangential.
yeah, no, oh no, yeah, I mean, yeah, your love story is so wonderful, and it's so bananas off to the side, and it's great. It is. It makes me so happy.
Oh, we have time for, yes, exactly, November 8th, Last Christmas. Can't wait.
There it is, exactly.
We have time for a few questions from right here.
Yeah. Hi, Paul. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
It's so interesting listening to all the movie making process. I think these are little tidbits that the audience would like to know what's happening behind the scenes. Now, speaking of audience, what do you think that you would like your audience to be their key takeaway after watching this film, that they're going to talk about while they're in the car, in the train, as they go back home?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we're living in very weird times right now, and just so much division and anger, and intolerance. And that's what I love about this movie. When I read it, it's just such a positive message about, everybody stop being so hard on everybody, and everybody try to understand that we're all going through the same thing. And if we look different, or we're from different places, if we believe different things, whatever, we are all still humans. And I want that to come across. And that's why it's nice that it's a Christmas movie. This would work fine if it wasn't a Christmas movie, because the story is just, a great story. But this is the time of the year when that feeling comes across. I mean, Michelle and I are both Christmas fanatics.
Huge Christmas fanatic. No, I
Look
think
at your boots.
I know. I am the elf today. I'm not Santa today. No, I think what it is like, I hope, like what you just said right at the beginning, this will be a classic Christmas movie because it does fit at that time, because sometimes Christmas is the most depressing time. If you're far away from home, if you're going through a tough patch, whatever. But what I really loved about this, not just only the diversity, but the little message of, look up, look around you. Not just because you have to appreciate the good things that you have, but to see maybe there's someone over there that just needs you to give them a smile. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture of love. It could be just a gesture of friendship and warmth. And I think that's what this movie does keep reminding. And you come out of it, you laugh a lot, you cry some, and you keep laughing again. And I think that's what life is all about. And then comes the new year. There's hope. So I hope you all take away. This is our Christmas gift to you.
There you go.
How about that?
That's right.
Next question.
Hi, this is a question from Michelle. I'm a huge fan of yours. I grew up watching your movies. But my question is, this is your second time working with Henry Golding. What is it like to work with him for the second time? Because I know you guys worked very closely to each other for Crazy Rich Asians. So is it like, what is it like for the second time?
Oh, it's always lovely to be with Henry, regardless of whether we're in a scene or not, because he truly is a good boy. I'm very, very proud of him, and right? No. And I'm so proud of what's happening for him.
Very handsome.
Oh, yes.
Easy on
I
the
mean, he
eyes,
takes
though.
after me. What can I say? No, and he deserves everything that's coming his way. He's hardworking, right? He's got great attitude, and I'm so proud of him.
We're both Henry Golding two-time club.
Yeah,
because I worked with him
right.
twice. You worked with him twice now.
Hey, and he brought us together. So.
No, John Chu really takes all the credit for getting Henry out there.
One more.
Hi, this question is for Michelle. I've been a fan of your movies for a long time. You've played as Ricky has said, many very strong women that are also very intelligent. Do you see this as continuing a path, especially for Asian actors in the future? And I think your best role is still in Crouching Tiger. That movie, to me, is still underappreciated.
I hope my best role is still yet to come.
There you go.
But I will continue to. I think times have continue to change, and we need to have stronger roles for women. But they are there, and thanks to this man, he's always been such a champion for the girls, right? Not just in your movies, but in your company as well.
Yeah.
The gender equality, equal rights, and equal opportunities, and then that's what we fight for. It's like, I don't need you to treat me special, but I do need you to give me equal opportunity. And I think that's for every one of us.
Guys, I love the film. Congratulations. It opens November 8th. It's called Last Christmas. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to me.
Thanks, gang.
Paul Feig, Michelle Yeoh, let's hear it.